Hello and welcome everyone. We'll get started in just a moment here. Just want to give people a chance to get their audio preferences settled before we begin. All right, that looks like a pretty good critical mass to begin with, and I'll make sure that I type this into the chat so people that are joining a bit later are able to reference everything. But hello and welcome to today's webinar, first one for ACRO of the year, so thanks for joining us. I just wanted to go over a few technical details before I introduce you to our presenters for today. This is Zoom webinar. It's very similar, but not the same as Zoom meeting. So your cameras and your microphones are disabled by default. So the main way to interact with each other and with the panel is using the chat and Q&A functions. Chat will default to hosts and panelists, so we'll be able to read those, but if you wanted everyone to see that message, just make sure that you select everyone from the drop down there. If you have a question, we'd prefer that you put that in the Q&A area just because it's easier for us to manage when we get to that. You can ask questions at any time, and if there's an appropriate break in the action, then we'll just bring those up and address them as they come in, but otherwise we'll get to all of them by the end of the session. You can ask those questions anonymously, and you can view existing questions as well as upvote existing questions. So without further ado, I want to hand it off to our panelists for today. First is Ron Christian from Scribble Software, who's going to be driving the deck and kind of leading us through our webinar today. And then joining him is Sandy Dobbs from the Clark County School District, who is going to bring some nice perspective on the utility of what Scribbles is doing here. So without further ado, I want to hand it off to Ron.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mike, and Sandy, and other Mike from Amazon for joining us today. Certainly appreciate you taking the time to spend the next hour with us to go through a little journey of where we're at today in terms of sending credential files, particularly transcripts, and what we believe is the future of sending electronic records and credential files for students as we move into the future. Hope everybody had a great holiday weekend. And this Tuesday is now a Monday, so it's a 4-day week, so everybody should be happy about that. So without further ado, we'll get in. All right, so what we're going to do is cover a little bit for those who are not familiar with Scribbles software, give you a little 411 on Scribble software, then talk about the ETranscript Network today as it exists. Clark County is going to take us, Sandy does a great job with this, through kind of the history of the student records and transitioning from paper to the electronic world. And then very excited to have Mike Bauer from AWS, been an outstanding partner for Scribble software in terms of the future and what we're doing, even currently today with the blockchain technology. So first, a little bit about us. We're no strangers, certainly, to ACRO. My partners and I, when we started Scribble software in 2010, had spent the previous almost 12 years with ACRO in post-secondary institutions, helping with admissions automation, transfer credit evaluation, and certainly transcript processing and making it more efficient and effective for transfer students from community college to or students going from one school to the next, post-secondary institution to the next. We spent a lot of time with ACRO understanding that. We've used that same type of desire in terms of automation and brought it to, we saw a massive void for K-12 school districts. So we started Scribble software with that in mind to help with automate the manual paper-intensive processes within school districts. So today, 12 years later, we are serving a lot of students, about 10 million across the country, a lot of different school districts. We focus pretty heavily on the large school districts. We serve 22 of the top 30 school districts in the country. Clark County with us today, being one of them at number 5. And in our network itself, we're delivering, because of our experience with ACRO and the things that we've seen, ACRO compliant e-transcripts to over 2,500 post-secondary institutions. The goal ultimately with this is that everyone would be a part of the free e-transcript network that we offer post-secondary institutions. So in terms of partnership, Acro, as I said, has been a great partner over the course of the years, and we recently formed another partnership to strengthen the ETranscript network, but also to position the students, the K-12 students and the school districts that we serve for the future. And we see the future being the Amazon blockchain. We've developed a blockchain with Amazon to service those students. So Amazon, we've been partnering together for over 11 years now. We've been using AWS to use their web services so that our solutions can be readily available to serve school districts and students across the country. So the ETranscript network itself. So some of the questions that I often get when I talk to a lot of you on the phone, or our team talks to you, or support team, what have you. Number one, what is the Scribbles ETranscript network? It's a little interesting for us because we're coming from a K-12 perspective. So we're sending you everything from junior, senior transcripts, all the way to somebody who might be going back to re-educate over the course of time. We certainly see a growing trend of those people going back to school. So the Scribbles ETranscript network we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then what does it mean for an institution like yours? You know, what impact does our network have on you? Once we have that established, you know, what are the steps to receive and verify those student records that are coming from K-12 schools? And how easy it to join? I mean, I get that a lot. What's it going to cost me? How is it going to join? It's a free network. So we encourage you highly, everyone, to be part of the network for serving those K-12 students. So first of all, frequently asked question, you know, what is the ETranscript network? It is a send and receive. The send is coming from K-12 schools and school districts, right? The receive is you, the post-secondary institutions. It's a send and receive network for the delivery of ACRO and FERPA compliant certified PDF transcripts. Today, as I said, we're serving more than 2,500 post-secondary institutions across the country. And we're also sending transcripts and credential files to more than 10,000 K-12 schools. So we're not only just sending transcripts and credential files to post-secondary institutions, we're also have a network where we're sending electronic files to other K-12 districts, K-12 school districts across the country. So I'm going to go in and show you what the ETranscript network looks like. Sometimes demos are better than just seeing a PowerPoint. So it's really simple. If I want to look at, in our network, all of the North Carolina schools, right? I can simply type in North Carolina into our application. You can see here's University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And all of these with the check mark are part of the ETranscript network, right? So if I click on it, you'll see for North Carolina, they have a ETranscript email. So sometimes it's etrans at unc.edu, sometimes it's admissions. It can be whatever you would like it to be. A general, typical, rather than to a named individual is better. But what we'll have then is all the notifications. We're not going to ever email records to them, that'd be a FERPA violation. However, what we're going to do instead is we're going to give you access, and we're going to give you notifications through emails. So we have an application that you'll get into. Okay, so it's as simple as that. You know, we have every post-secondary institution in the country in our database with the address and where it needs to be delivered to. We also have the ETranscript notification, so that way they can go into the app and access it through their email. Okay, so click forward. Great. So what does it mean to an institution like yours, right? So I'm a college university. What does it mean to me? Number one, no more paper transcript. I don't think anyone in the year 2022 wants paper, right? So it's eliminating and making an easy way to eliminate those paper transcripts. Enhancing student service. So you can respond faster for that potential student who's applying to your school. Strengthening your partnerships with K-12 schools. You're going to hear from Sandy about Clark County. They want everyone in the network that they send transcripts to. It's strengthening that partnership. So that way, if you want to have a student from Clark County, it's an electronic exchange, very, very simple, right? And also it's a free membership. So why wouldn't you just join, right? I mean, it's not going to cost you anything. It's going to save a lot of time and money. So what are the steps? We try to make this as easy as possible, yet secure, right? So if we look at it, you're going to receive, as a part of the network, you'll have an account. And in that account, you're going to receive an email notification letting you know how many transcripts you have to download, right? So you'll get that link to Scriborder, and then you'll open it and it'll send you automatically a verification. So it's dual authentication. So it's going to come in and send you a validation code. Once you go to the validation code, you copy it, you re-enter the app, and then you can go in and download, search and download any transcript out there. I'm going to show you how that looks right now. Okay. The important thing to point out here is end to end, by the time that a student requests the record, sends it to Sandy at Clark County and his team at Clark County to process that record request, and ultimately for the post-secondary institution to download, it should be complete within 24 hours, right? As opposed to weeks. Right. So I'm going to go through the email notification. So what this is going to do is going to open up, and we're going to stay on the theme of Chapel Hill. So this is what it's going to look like, right? So if I go in, you say, good morning, UNC, you've got 11 new transcripts to download. There are 252 available. So what we do, a lot of times, college universities will say, gosh, we lost the transcript or what have you. Can you resend it? Well, rather than resending it, you can simply go back into the app. So when you go into the app, here's what it's going to look like. Right? You can see you can validate credentials. So what that's going to do is give the ability to validate that it is a valid transcript sent by Clark County, Nevada. And you can see here, again, this is the app for UNC. So they've got students from all the way from Anchorage to, to North Carolina, right? Charlotte, all the way from Anchorage to Charlotte, and a lot of them in between, from Newport Beach to Pittsburgh County. So they're getting transcripts from everywhere across the country. Right. And so they can come in and then download those. When they click download new, what's going to happen is it's going to download all of those into a zip file. Right. And I'll show you that here in a second. So if I go to my downloads, right, you can see a zip file where I click on the ETranscript zip file. It's going to give me an index file, which is going to contain the student's name, the information that's commonly used for, I know I was on the phone and we did a recent webinar with Penn State. They take that index file and all the associated transcripts along with it, so they can auto insert that into their document management system. That's what the design is for. Or you can just process one at a time should you wish. So each one of these will be downloaded and it'll be a certified PDF transcript. And what the transcript looks like, obviously can't open those from UNC, that would be a violation. So what we'll do is use a test transcript, and one that's already actually loaded also on the blockchain, which we'll talk about here in a second. But you'll notice that it's a blue ribbon signed document, which is one of the requirements for ACRO. Again, this is just a sample transcript. It's not real information, right? And you can also see on the back page, we put a cover page. So it's really the cover page is on the back. So that way, the first thing you would see as a post-secondary institution is actually the transcript. You could actually drop off the back page should you wish when you insert it in the archive. Okay, so I have my student's name, what it is, a transcript. You can see it's been digitally signed. So we use a global sign for our certificate authority. We have the seal of the school district. In this case, it's just Scribbles, right? Where it comes from, the school district that it comes from, the data was sealed on, by whom, and how many pages it is. That makes it a certified PDF transcript by ACRO standards. Great, so we'll go back into the presentation. Okay. Click forward. So the next question is, how easy is it to join the ETranscript Network? And we try to make this as simple as possible. I would tell you can just email etranscripts@scribsoft.com or support@scribsoft.com. We will get you there. But we also put on our landing page, we put a place where you could just go in and learn a little bit about the ETranscript Network, but also all you have to do is put your name, your information, your email, what school, what post-secondary institution you belong to, your address and information, and then you connect. And we'll take that information, we'll contact you, we'll give you step-by-step instructions. Again, it's very, very simple to not only join, but also to actually process those record requests are very, very simple, okay? We have a QR code too that will also open it up for you automatically should you wish. So we're going to make this presentation available to you. Okay. So now let's talk about, that's where we are today, right? With ETranscript and a part of the network. But I think it's important that everyone also understands, not everyone is advanced perhaps as Clark County, but most of the school districts we certainly talk to are going through this transition of the paper world to electronic, right? We really encourage that in a very big way, and we're going across the country to do so, right? So if you look at the way we are from a paper transcript perspective today, the traditional method is, the student completes a form, perhaps on a website, a paper form, to request that record. Sometimes the school districts make them come in, sometimes they make them mail them in. Sometimes there's even these old fax machines that are used, which we hope are going into the Smithsonian soon. But that's typically a 1 to 5 day process, right? If they're walking in, it's 1 day, right? If they're mailing it in, it's going to take 5 days. Then the high school or the central office where Sandy works out of will then process that request. So they open the mail, they get all the information that they need, and that's literally a 1 to 15 day process, depending on the number of requests and the size of the schools. The other thing to point out is we got thrown a massive curveball last year about this time when we had the shutdowns, when things were happening with COVID. Fast forward maybe a couple of months from 2 years. But if you think about what happened then, schools were closed and schools still are closed. So how are we going to process the paper world when there's nobody in the schools to process those requests? How is that student supposed to walk in and get their transcript sent over to UNC if there's no school available to, and no one at the school to process that request? So the electronic world became very important. And then the post-secondary institution received that paper request. And because we worked with a number of you over the course of our life prior to Scribbles, we know that you're scanning those into a document management system to process those requests. But that's typically a 3 to 10 day process. So end to end, it could be a month before a paper transcript from a student, from the idea that they want to go to UNC until it's actually done. We can condense that down to 24 hours, right? Which we feel is a very big service for the students in America. Okay, so number one, paper transcripts, what are the issues with it, right? Number one, not secured. It could be sent to anyone. It could be lost. We could get coffee spilt on it. We've heard a lot, fires, all these different things. It's not a secured process. Some schools are actually closed. We have school districts we serve today that are not actually physically there. They went through with the new variation of the coronavirus. We're now, we're closed again. We don't know how long that's going to continue, but we would anticipate that there are going to be off and on starts with the closures. So schools aren't there to process paper requests. And furthermore, it's just unnecessary in terms of cost and added time for not only the school districts, the K-12 school districts and the counselors and so forth that are sending you those records and the registrars, but it's just unnecessary in terms of the time that they're spending to send them. And it's also really unnecessary for you to go in and actually have to receive paper, open the mail, sort it, scan it, so it's electronic. It's already electronic. Let's keep it electronic, right? It is, as we say, the year 2022 after all. Okay, with that, very happy to introduce to you Sandy Dobbs. Sandy and all the friends of ours at Clark County have been fantastic thought leaders in terms of automation and actually making our company much better. So we feel indebted to them, and they've done a really nice job with taking technology and really taking it to the next level. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sandy for an introduction.
Well, thank you, Ron. I'll give you a breather here. And once again, my name is Sandy Dobbs. Just so you know, Ron, I did get promoted. I'm a director now. So that was good news. Just last week, I got promoted up to a director position. So yeah, one of the reasons for that promotion is actually doing exactly what we're talking about today. And I did have a little story for you, Ron. You know, I'm a storyteller. I just want to let everybody know, the other day I went out to a college where I did graduate a couple times with different degrees, and it wasn't easy to get my transcript, believe it or not. I actually, they said that I never could really talk to anybody over the phone in the first place, and so then I filled out my thing online, and I decided I would go pick it up instead of have them mail it to me, because I didn't know how quick I needed my transcript for like I said, the promotion. And so I knew I had an interview, and that was one of the documents that I had to have, was my transcript from the college that I attended. Well, to make a long story short, parking was hard to find. I had to drive to the campus. I had to find this building in the middle of the campus, which was ended up being about a half a mile walk. Finally got in there and got my my transcript in an envelope, and I was just like, oh my goodness. We, as CCSD, our student records department, which I've been there for a little over 8 years, we are so far advanced compared to this large college. And when I mean large college, I'm talking about UNLV. So as CCSD, I was so proud of the fact that we blow them out of the water, because we use Scribbles and they don't have any kind of digital method to send transcripts. And it just floors me every time we deal with them. Matter of fact, I'm starting to hire people out of their student records department to come over to mine, because we just have a lot to offer. And we're like I was telling Ron earlier, we just want to be cutting edge. And cutting edge is the way to go to where we're talking about today. Yes, we are the 5th largest school in the nation. That fluctuates obviously up and down. COVID was a real hit to us. And to be honest, we were in the search for, we were very unhappy with our past person, our company that kept our records. So we were in the market when we first started this journey. When we first started the journey, we knew that we wanted to be paperless. About 14 years ago, I decided that, and it's kind of weird how it's worked out, but it's 14 years ago, I decided that I wanted to make our school paperless. And as things have turned out, I'm now working to make the whole district, the 5th largest school district in the nation, paperless, which is a huge task that I hope to accomplish. And it's not been easy, but I'll be honest, when we started this about 8 years ago, we went looking for somebody who could do something paperless, but also had some archive, somewhere we could put our documents as well. And Scribbles was, in the end, the choice we made. And we did look at a few companies that provided different things, but Scribbles was the full package, and that's who we decided to go with. Now, the journey that we started, when did we do that, around about 5-6 years ago now, is when we started with.
It has. It's been
Wow.
We're on the 5th year, almost 6. Yeah.
Yeah. And to be honest, it saved us. So when the pandemic, COVID, whatever you want to call it, broke out, we didn't have any trouble at all, where other schools were messed up. Like even today, our school district, most people don't know, but we've been closed for the last 2 days. There's nobody at the schools. There's nobody at central offices. We're not allowed to go in right now. And this is the last day of that. So tomorrow we're back in the building, but it's no problem for us. We just keep on business as normal. We're just pushing along and filling our requests. And I was just dealing with a little bit of a problem on this morning. No problem. It's all digital now. And we were kind of laughing, having fun. We do get the folks that we do get from time to time, these I will have to say rural or old school districts that request records, and we have to make them sign in to the network and get on board so we can actually offer all of the services that come with digital. And it's just, it's crazy how much they fight it, and they tell us how ridiculous it is for us to make them do this. And at the end of the day, they don't even know what to say. They're like, oh my God, that was so fast. And they don't even understand it, some of the districts that we do work with. And we are in Las Vegas, so it is a very transient situation that we have here. I did work for one school before I became central office and was working with Ron. 40% of our students would move out and replace themselves in the school year, and that's not uncommon in some of our schools. So we get a lot of transiency here in Las Vegas with people moving in and out. They're either coming, from the East Coast, moving towards California, and they stop along the way and live here for a little bit, or they're moving the opposite way from California, hit here Las Vegas, and then they move on, towards the east side of the country. But that's really saved us and this is all hindsight. We didn't know the pandemic was coming, and yet we were totally saved by the Scribbles movement to handle that pandemic without a hitch. And we just kind of went, okay, you're working from home today. Make sure you have your computer, sign out your, laptop, and there they go. And they're working from home, and they turn around and we never lose a step. So I wanted to throw that in, Ron. I didn't want to upset the balance of this, but
no, that's really good. That's really good. So question for you too, obviously had a big impact on you, but I mean, how, to give us an idea of volume, how many record requests is your office processing a year?
We did look that up just recently, and we have the different types of requests that come in. Obviously, it's not just transcripts that we use. I saw one of the questions go by about different secondary materials. We offer all of the different student records that our state makes us keep, like enrollment history, transcripts, immunizations are attached to that. We also do the full line of special ed confidential records, and anything that we maintain as a state for our students, we can send that over in the process when we're delivering student records. And it's not student transcripts, as you can see, it's student records. So we can send really anything that we need to. And it was really, on our part, we did move to a digital system that allowed us to go really digital. And I know Ron was really helping us a lot with transferring our past data into newer data. And our other company, if you don't mind me mentioning, was Infinite Campus, was the student information system we used. And it basically generates a lot of PDFs and on the fly reports that we can pull in, and then we can store them in Scribbles, keep them in Scribbles archive, and then we can send those out at the drop of a hat. And going back, I was kind of laughing as Ron was going through some of the processes. It would take us, and Ron, it was 10-day minimum when we got it, and we would go over sometimes, and we tried not to, but it was just the volume. Student records is very cyclic. Like at the beginning of the year, you're just swamped, and by Christmas, it's changed. We're doing different stuff, and we've had a real big push into the people getting their transcripts back together. They're going back to work now that the pandemic's kind of closing down a little bit. Even though there's a surge, people are going back to work. They want all these documents again. And, by the end of the year, we're going to be really busy again. And then we just start the whole thing over every year. But it's numbers wise, we are looking at probably approximately 50,000 orders, and then add another student transfers, it could be upwards of 10,000. So I'd say between 50 and 60,000, Ron,
Right.
that we're handling. And here's the kick in the head for most of you guys that are out there listening. We do that with 5 people.
Right.
Troubleshoot, add another one, but usually we do that with we used to have 15 people on paper request. And now I've been allowed to, and this is a big, beautiful thing about the thing that's not here, is I was allowed to allocate my workers to different areas of my department because of the time saved that it takes to fill requests now. I've moved 10 people around to other positions to do cleaning of records and working in confidentials that were on the request system that aren't anymore. So it's a lot more than saving time sometimes. Now I'm working in different areas of my department, cleaning up those sides too. So that's really awesome. But yeah, we do 50 to 60 with the school transfers added, on top of legal, on top of corporate, on top of, former students and, the government entities. We cover a lot there.
Yeah, a lot of folks in this call certainly can relate, being registrars and admissions officers, right? With post-secondary institutions, they get pulled in a lot of different directions as well in terms of compliance and all those different docs. So, Sandy, we always appreciate your partnership and your conversation. We're going to ask you probably to interject because you got that great personality too. So you can interject as we go along. Feel free to jump in. But I do appreciate you, and I did want to show you all Clark County's site, so you kind of get an idea of experience with. And this was actually one of the questions, which is one of the reasons I'm bringing this up. One of the questions was, if I'm a university or college or university, can I order a transcript? The answer is yes. You could actually order it. Depending on the school, they may ask for a signed release from that student. Typically they do, but you would have that on file anyways. But basically what happens is, when I'm a student and I want to request a record, I click on it, and it's as simple as this, right? The one thing I wanted to show you was this pop-up. So this pop-up was new, and this is, again, talking about the paperless initiative and the importance of you being a part of the ETranscript Network. Prior to, Sandy, you can speak to this, but prior to shutdowns, it was basically a lot of printing, right? A lot of people walking in, a lot of foot traffic into your office.
Totally.
And now, go ahead.
Matter of fact, when we first started this business, we would only take work money orders for payment, which was a huge problem. Right. And so we put this thing up when the pandemic hit. We couldn't take people coming in anymore. And of course, with the Scribbles system, now we can take various types of payment, all digital, all online, so people can do this sitting at home. They don't need to even come in. And now we only serve by appointments. We don't have people walking in, which is definitely, I don't have a front desk person anymore. That's one of the things I moved. And so this pop-up came up because of the pandemic, but basically it's just saying we're not open to the public right now unless it's by appointment. So usually all of the calls that come in, we handle them over the phone, and nobody has to come in and deal that business, and it's all handled digitally because of Scribbles.
Awesome.
If you could go back to the front screen, I can show you two other things that we just had. If you're there already. Scribbles was very helpful when it came to some of the stuff that happened to us on our website. When Ron was clicking, we did two different things there that we didn't start with. And those two things were, on our front page, it said the one Ron clicked was former student, that our graduating student, and then there was former student. Now, we added graduating student on at a later date because we wanted to help out our schools get ahead of their game, because they were getting swamped with transcript requests. Well, if the student wanted something sent immediately to a college or needed extra attention, we offered them a very cheap solution. If you notice, that first one says graduating current student. Seniors can now go to us instead of their schools, and we have an expedited service, and we'll get it done not in 24 hours, not in 48 hours. We'll do it within the hour. Right. And that's insane. And then if you look at the bottom, you see the NV87. We had big legislation change, and Ron's company helped us solve that problem by letting that particular classification of student get a free transcript, because they had a change in heart on that, allowing certain students to be graduates that weren't before. And so look at there, we can now handle those students right through our website and push them through that channel too. So adaptive, you have to throw in to the changing environment that you have, because we're at the hands of legislative, well, there you go. AB7 Assembly Bill at 7 said that these certain set of people graduated, even though they didn't. Now their graduates change all their transcripts, and that was a hullabaloo. All that. But we
dealt with that, so Sandy, we dealt with that in 4 states.
I knew you did it in another one.
Yeah, and we've done it. We've done it that particular one in 4 different states. Not that same statute, obviously, but it's
Yeah.
very similar. So, well, Sandy, thank you. I appreciate the time, and I think we'll move on at this point. Well, now that we talked about the paperwork,
Thank you, Ron.
you understand where Sandy's coming from. Thank you, Sandy. You understand where Sandy and Clark County and many others are coming from. We wanted to use him as an illustration so you could join in his paperless initiative and what they're trying to do at Clark County to serve their students. Their students are your potential students. So let's get on board. Let's do things electronic whenever possible. Okay. So with that said, we're now going to go into the world. We're in it today, the blockchain. We're using it to send transcripts, and you can certainly validate through the Scribbles blockchain today. But we also wanted to give you an idea of what's coming into the future, because we don't want to just talk about the ETranscript network as it exists today. We want to look at where things are going to be next year, even 5 years into the future. So with that, we've brought our friends at Amazon to the table, and they've been a fantastic partner. Mike Bauer, head of Ed Tech Strategy, is going to talk to us a little bit about Amazon's strategy when it comes to blockchain and other Ed Tech initiatives that you may be interested in. It's kind of interesting. I like his background there. Everybody loves acoustical guitar, right? I mean, that's the best. Have background music when you're listening at work.
It's definitely a chill playlist, and as you can see, I got the fireplace here, rolling in the background. So whenever we have fireside chats, it comes pretty organically, Ron.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very good. So why don't you give us a little insight to what you're doing at Amazon, Mike?
Sure. So I've been in the world of education technology my entire career, about 20 years now, and been at AWS for the last 2.5 years. And Amazon is doing quite a bit in the world of education. From a lot of folks obviously know us for the Prime student Prime membership and the sort of the benefits that take place there. Amazon Business is what so many school districts, the vast majority of school districts and universities and state colleges all use Amazon Business or have some contractual, for supplies and physical goods. But in the world of Amazon Web Services, which is very much a subsidiary of Amazon, there's a massive cloud infrastructure, and it basically got a 6-year head start on everyone else that started in 2006, and then others caught on that, hey, cloud infrastructure actually is a thing, kind of renting out data centers and servers and for compute and storage and all the needs. So all the technology companies started saying, including what we're on right now, we're on Zoom. Zoom is a big AWS customer, and we're running this very, a webinar on Zoom, which is running on AWS. And you're starting to see us advertise a little more through, the NFL playoffs and others that DoorDash and Peloton. And in our world, the education technology world, it's going to be folks like Blackboard and Instructure and Ellucian. Ellucian's main banner, SIS, is running in the cloud. And transitioning a lot of the universities. I think 2,000 something universities are moving. And so we have these very distinct verticals. We have a K-12 vertical where the majority of school districts are using either direct with AWS or an ed tech organization like Scribbles that's powered by AWS. And then we have a higher ed vertical, which is focused on helping the data centers that are in place be moved to the cloud where it makes sense, getting away from sort of these static old guard, tape backup systems and old disaster recovery systems, and moving toward a more modern approach, kind of thinking instead of capital expenses, thinking about moving those capital expenditures to operational expenditures, thinking of, and this is really the new world is because it's 2022, as you've said many times, Ron, it's really about thinking of cloud infrastructure and the internet as a utility. It's like your power, it's like your water. And when you're a technology company, you just think of AWS as just yet another utility expense that has to be taken care of. So you don't have to swap out your servers and your racks every single 3 to 5 years. That's a heavy expense and requires a lot of maintenance from the standpoint of personnel and those who are skilled and certified in specific areas. And so Amazon is doing a gigantic amount of training in the marketplace for cloud infrastructure and cloud tools. We're doing that through tools like AWS Restart and AWS Training and Certification, where both are global programs that we're connecting hundreds of thousands of students in more than 200 countries and territories around the world. We're using AWS Educate to train and develop skills for cloud careers and growing, so that those can grow into what we're doing here. So zooming in real quick, so we've talked K-12 and higher education. My world is I lead our strategy vertical around ed tech. And so that means I get to work with 3,000 plus organizations that are in the K-12 and higher ed space that are providing solutions and services using, and we, just to be clear, we have 200 something services. It's almost like you have to think of it as Lego blocks, right? And putting those Legos together in such a way, as to create a product or a site or an application or an app that's on your phone. And so the partnership with Scribbles has been fantastic because you are blazing a trail. Scribbles is blazing a trail using our Amazon managed blockchain service, which is really kind of at the heart of what you're seeing in the cryptocurrency world, as well as in now the NFT world, the non-fungible tokens. All of that is a distributed, decentralized identifier ledger is really what that is. And that really gives you three specific things. So you can think of blockchain technology as giving you three specific things, especially in the world of credentials, as you think about a high school student needing to send a transcript to a college and having that verified. First, the credentials are secure. Every credential issued can be cryptographically verified as having been generated by the issuer, right? And that's really a very important point, is immutability, being able to know that this is Ron Christian's wallet that we're dealing with and no one else. And the only way we can authorize that and validate that is if Ron himself had signed that and that it is his. That is immutable, right? And so that's the first. The second is the credentials are portable. The credential holder decides which parties he or she wishes to share it with and which specific fields to disclose. This is very important in the K-12 realm, where you have laws like FERPA and COPPA that are designed to protect the privacy of students under 18 years old. And so being able to selectively say, this can be shared, this cannot be shared in a credential verification is really critical. And the third is because data is selectively disclosed by the credential holder instead of being stored in central silos, data remains private and the attack vector is significantly reduced, meaning it's just more secure to do it this way. You don't have a lot of traffic that is, going over. You can't sit in a Starbucks and have your packets get sniffed through just a Wi-Fi connection. That doesn't happen. It's actually impossible with the way blockchain technology is set up. And so it's, for all those reasons, it's so much more private and secure than any other method out there for transmitting data. And so we are huge advocates, of course, of blockchain, huge advocates of Scribbles and the partnership that we're building here with Ron and his team. And so excited to see what's next, because the next obvious step is to make those partnerships with higher ed universities and with more school districts ubiquitous. And so that what Scribbles is doing is just everyone is Scribbles certified. And that's a huge value to obviously everyone on this call and elsewhere. So we're big fans and want to continue this partnership. One thing that I will say this, we are investing like to the tune of 3 times what we've invested in the last 5 years into the next. The pandemic has definitely expedited a lot in regards to higher education, frankly, and we could get into kind of the philosophical reasons for this, but we see higher education as under attack in a lot of ways in regards to how teaching and learning is done and sort of education as a benefit moving forward. So we're trying to move where the puck is going to be, as it were, and try and make those relationships with universities and colleges, more modernized and trying to help those infrastructure needs even more so. So we're hiring like crazy in that world and trying to make sure that the education technology needs that are required for that future of teaching and learning, where you might have used to need a 4-year degree or a certificate isn't necessarily the case anymore. And so having to transition to a more modernized approach for education itself and understanding, if I want to know Ron is, validated in a specific field or available to do a specific job that meets these skills, does he necessarily need a 4-year degree? Or maybe he needs these set of credentials, these stackable certificates, and those need to be verified, of course, but maybe it looks like more like a composite degree as opposed to a full-blown degree, traditional sense of a higher ed credential. So anyway, not trying to break open a Pandora's box here, but we're excited to see kind of what the future of higher ed looks like. what education has a benefit with folks like, what we're seeing with Walmart and Target, and of course, Amazon.com proper, and some of the big employers out there, and seeing the direction it's going is pretty compelling for us. So we're going to triple our investment this year in 2022 in the world of ed tech. So Ron, I hope that's helpful in regards to kind of just talking about what we've done with your team and the kind of hoping where things are going to move next. Oh, you're still on mute, Ron.
Thank you so much, Mike. Yeah, that was fantastic, really. And I'm sure most of us on this call actually have an Amazon package at our doorstep right now. So we'll spend the next couple of minutes kind of going through also what we're talking about in the future. And, except Amazon, we've been partnering for 11 years. We were excited pre-pandemic to talk about our blockchain initiative. But boy, it really accelerated when schools were not in session. You heard Sandy talk about school closures and the ability to send things electronically. We believe at Scribbles that, and I know Amazon shares this as well, that the student's academic record, right? The learner and their academic record is actually their record. Yes, there's a custodian being Clark County, Nevada, and other school districts. But if I'm a graduate from a high school or even a community college or wherever, that record is my record, right? That's my academic history. So what we want to do in the future is we want to change the way we are processing credential files. So we believe that the future will be the learner will be able to send their credential file through a wallet, right? And we have that available today, where they can send their credential file, be it a junior, senior, or a 50-year-old guy like myself could send my credential to go into college. So I would not need to go to the school if it's already been validated and it's on the blockchain, right? The idea that the learner could send it directly to UNLV if they're in Nevada, or they can send it to one of the Cal State or UC systems or wherever across the country. They should be able to send their record by themselves without the school district doing it. That's what we're positioning Clark County for even next year. So more to come on that. So what it'll look like this, right? So the idea is that we're going to take a secure digital record of the transcript and just from the student at the time they created, and give them ownership so that way it can be validated by a post-secondary institution. This allows the learner to send their own record to post-secondary institution, could be for a job, military, but they would be in control of where they send their record. It'll also allow the post-secondary institution to validate using Scribbles blockchain, which is in partnership obviously with Amazon, to validate that it's an authenticated record. And then the school districts themselves can focus more of their time on serving the students, to give them guidance on where they should go, as we just heard Mike talk about. Do they need to go to a community college? Should they be thinking about different certificates, even in K-12 for school choice programs, so that way they can have their career as they move forward and have their educational plan mapped out for them. The processors, being the K-12 school district, want to spend their time helping students with their future, right? So we go through, it's pretty simple, really, right? So we look at it with the Scribbles node. As we look at the blockchain, we say, all right, number one, the transcript is created, right? The transcript is created by loading it in the system. But today it's a certified PDF transcript. It's validated, right, using the blockchain. It's loaded into our blockchain, then delivered to the college university. So that college university can then validate that it is indeed a valid blockchain record, right? So what happens is we've got a Scribbles node, and then Clark County adds their node, which they'll have next year when we load all their juniors and seniors into our blockchain and all their transcript and credential files, right? So when we look at it, we'll say, okay, the Scribbles blockchain encrypts the record and it validates the data. And then every transaction is encrypted, creating a chain or a transaction history, right? Then the Scribbles blockchain, is logging each transaction with all of the K-12 school districts across the country. So there'll be multiple nodes. LA Unified would have a node, Clark County would have a node, Baltimore County would have a node. Everyone across the country who are Scribbles clients will have a node, which was going to make it a strong chain, right? So as we think about it, as we start adding nodes, Clark County, Prince George's, Wake County, Atlanta Public, all of Scribbles clients, as we add them to the blockchain, right? We just keep increasing the number of nodes. And as we add more nodes, what happens is becomes immutable, which basically means it can't be forwarded or altered. It's a tight locked chain. It's an extremely secure transaction at that point. And that's really the important piece. So if Mike sends his transcript that we've logged with the blockchain, not only is, and he went to school in Washington, D.C., not only is his record going to be there, but it's the chain is going to go across multiple nodes, right? Making it a much stronger, and the record, since it's logged with each one of those nodes, if he tries to alter that, it's going to break the chain, thus seeing it as an invalid record, right? So it's an extremely safe and secure way and a fantastic way to validate that it's an authenticated record. Okay. So when we look at it, we say, gosh, it's kind of a win-win for everybody. Students control their own record, right? That's what they want. They want to be able to send their record to 20 different schools and then have those 20 different schools say, yes, you've applied and you've been accepted, right? The K-12 school districts win because, frankly, it's a 1-to-1 ratio right now. When they have a student that comes in and says, I would like my transcript sent to UNLV, what happens is that student requests the record, the school district's in the middle, and then UNLV gets the record as soon as the school district can process the request. In the future, we see things as the student's going to have their own record in the Scribbles wallet, and they'll be able to send that transcript by themselves automatically to that college university for admissions. College universities win because the response is so much faster, right? First iteration of our blockchain is certified PDF transcripts. And I got that question, what is an ACRO certified PDF transcripts? There's a list of criteria. If you go out to the ACRO website, there's a list of criteria that makes it an ACRO certified PDF transcript. If you have questions, you can certainly email me or our support team, and we'll get right back to you with what makes something an ACRO certified PDF transcript. But the college universities certainly win there too, right? Because they're getting all the information is sent to them automatically, so that way they can work on and apply those students. And furthermore, the first iteration being PDF transcripts next year, future generations will certainly be, PES XML, speedy data, and that will be automatically going from, we mentioned the Infinite Campus, student information system for K-12 or PowerSchool, going from that electronic to electronic in your particular SIS that you're working with your college or university. So ultimately, that's the goal: data to data exchange, not PDF transcripts. Okay. So if you'd like to join the network, you can literally click on the screen now. You can take a picture of it, and it'll automatically launch to sign up for the ETranscript Network. Like we said, we're really doing this mostly for the students, trying to provide equitable access for all students across the country. We feel in order to do that, we really need to stop sending paper. We have to stop the fax machines. We joke around about it a lot, but the reality is, if Prince George's County is closed today and there's no one to process that student record, that's not equitable, right? So there's nobody to print and mail that record. We really need an electronic exchange. So as Sandy said, we're able to do this from home. We can send transcripts electronically. Let's all get on board on electronic movement for sure, and modernize these school districts. So we thank you. I'd like to thank ACRO, certainly for allowing us to host this and be a part of modernization for students across the country. Certainly Sandy is always awesome at Clark County. And then Mike, thank you for your partnership at AWS. I'm going to go down and see if we have any questions real quick before we end. Okay, yeah, we're getting we're getting some questions about, little resistance on blockchain in terms of the ledger concepts for academic records. Yeah, I think, we can certainly, I'd like to really address that in future conversations for sure. But as we looked at that, there's a lot of information in terms of the security and the things that we're doing. And it's far much more secure from our perspective than sending for sure paper records or even a PDF record, right? So it's a much more secured environment, certainly, for doing that.
Can I add, Ron, that to Mark's question there, the Web 3.0 architecture, and this is really coming to a head. I mean, I don't want to go outside the world of education, but I will just for a minute. But in the world of cryptocurrency, of course, as you can imagine, the needs for change and dynamic and even repository and storage is changing dramatically in the Web 3.0. If you want to, like, there's so many articles on sort of blockchain in a Web 3.0 structure and what that looks like, that takes into account these use cases of rapid changes that are sometimes multiple changes in milliseconds and what's needed in those situations. And there's a lot of very, very smart folks that are working on a lot of different solutions in the Web 3.0 world. And so this use case is being addressed. It's already, there are other organizations, even ed techs, that are also working on this. And Ron and his company are being supported by AWS solution architects that also have a lot of those sort of future roadmap specific features coming. So certainly something we could take offline, but those use cases are being addressed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Yeah, we get a lot of questions too. Why aren't you in higher ed? I get that a lot. You know, we're absolutely a company focused on growth, right? And some of the things we do. So I don't want to shoot that down by any means. But if you'd like to email me, we can certainly have some side conversations. We have done. They said we've served higher education for years and years. So we certainly understand the landscape and so forth. We are on a mission to automate K-12 schools because we think it's a great thing for the future of our country. We want to provide, like I said, equitable access for those who need it, and make sure that education is equal for all. And that's been a big mantra of ours. So that's going to be a focal point for the next year, but we're not ruling things out for sure. We're in the growth business, you know, much like Amazon, not quite as growing as Amazon, but you know, but yes, we're definitely in the growth. Okay. All right,
Is there
Mike,
an email that you prefer, Ron, that people reach you at?
Yeah, certainly. It's ron.christian. Will everyone get it if I type an answer?
I can pop it in there. I just didn't want to share
Okay,
it.
yeah, ron.christian@scribsoft.com would be great. Mike, thank you so much.
Sure. Great. Yeah, and I was going to say we're right up against our end time here. But luckily, Mike and Ron went through a bunch of the questions that were pending before, and they've typed out those answers there. So if you haven't seen those already, if you click on the Q&A button and you go to the answered column, you can see all of those questions along with the answers that are typed out there. I'll make sure that those are downloaded and available in text form so you can reference them afterwards. And for those that access the recording, that will also be there. The recording, you can use the same link that you used to join this live session to watch the recording. It takes usually around 30 minutes to process, but it'll be available on the Zoom page. And then we will find other ways to make it available as well in partnership with Scribbles.
Okay.
So with that, I'd just like to thank Ron, Mike, and Sandy for coming to join us today and sharing their expertise here about ETranscripts and their new ETranscript Network. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming and attending today, starting the new year off strong.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye all.